So, well, again, should I say good afternoon or good evening? I'm not really sure because I can't have enough time to check on my time, but all that I just need to say is, welcome to the home of the Revolutionary Party. ZANU-PF, as members of the fourth estate, our usual colleagues. I must say before the acting spokesperson of the party, Comrade Patrick Chinamaza, who is a usual face for all of you, flanked by Comrade Mike Bima, who is a political member as well, and our national political commissar, Comrade Victor Matima Danda, who is to his left, and to his extreme left, where there's the the acting deputy secretary of the Youth League, Comrade I must say that we have come up with new regulations. So, in future, for those that will be coming to cover proceedings from this sacred building, this sacred headquarters of the People's Revolution, you ought to apply so that you will be granted permission to do so. We say so that you do not suffer from being probably getting shocked at the main gate of entrance. So let me just hasten to say this is the 341st session of the Politburo, and as usual, the spokesperson of the party will give you the brief, and without wasting much of your time, Comrade Spokesperson, it's over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to welcome all of you for the patience waiting for us, but today it was a short session of the Politburo. It was the 341st ordinary session of the Politburo. And I'm going to read out to you the deliberations that took place. I think you've all been distributed copy of the speech, the address made by His Excellency, the President. If that has not been done, you will soon be given copies of that address, but you are all there. And I'm sure that you took note of what he said. And what I'm going to read out to you is reinforcing more or less the same themes and the same messages, the same warnings and the same concerns. So I start by reading the deliberations. The Politburo had a presentation from the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Honorable Dr. Sekai Nzenza, on the programs that the ministry is doing to respond to the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the industry. She reported that the ministry is doing an impact assessment to determine how many companies and industries have been affected, with 17% of enterprises having closed temporarily. The ministry is taking advantage of the stimulus package provided by His Excellency the President of the Republic, Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa. She also said that 60% of raw materials come from agriculture, and as such, they are in consultation with the Ministry of Agriculture on how to recover and boost these sectors, mostly through beneficiation and agro-processing. She highlighted that before COVID-19, the country was importing several products, among them glucose, but now due to restrictions imposed on us by COVID-19, they are focusing on import substitution, which is aimed at boosting local production, not only of cotton, but also local production of pharmaceuticals and fertilizers. The ministry is working also with cotton farmers to ensure that we enhance output from the cotton sector so that import substitution can be effected and implemented on the clothing industry. The Politburo tasked her ministry to come up with effective strategies to monitor distribution of basic commodities to curb hoarding after subsidization. She also reported that the Consumer Protection Act is being mooted, that is the amendments to it, and which is proposed to protect consumers from unjustified price increases by unscrupulous business players. I need to add here that we had invited 2 other ministers of tourism, environment, and also of ICT. They sent their apologies and they were not able to attend, and that I think has also caused the proceedings to be shorter than we were intended. There was also an issue of disciplinary issues, but nothing was reported on that issue. No new cases were placed on the table of the National Disciplinary Committee, and so there was, we hope next session, we may receive cases of reports of cases of disciplinary action. We also received a report from the chairman of the COVID task force, that is Comrade Vice President Moati. It was a comprehensive report from the task force. The meeting applauded the work that has been done thus far, which has seen the death rates relatively low despite the latest increases of positive cases to 936 due to returnees from other countries. The meeting also noted the motivating number of recoveries, which stand at 306. However, the fact that we have a relatively low death rate should not make us complacent, but rather we need to double our efforts in awareness campaigns, wearing of face masks, social distancing, as well as contact tracing and the provision of adequate personal protection equipment. The Politburo requested for stronger cooperation between the Ministry of Health and the uniformed forces, that is with respect to enforcement of COVID-19 regulations. The Ministry of Health is also working with the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education through universities and polytechnics to utilize incubation centers to spearhead innovations in fighting the spread of COVID-19. We have a report that one of those hubs has come up with a mobile contact tracing and testing strategy using a mobile cell phone. On returning citizens, returnees by the 7th of July 2020, the total number of returnees had reached 11,000, and coming from Africa, Asia, Europe, and with government leading the repatriation supported by international organizations, in particular the Organization on Migration, that is the UN Organization on Migration. The chairperson of the COVID-19 task force, Comrade Moati, however, noted that the task force had faced challenges of quarantine escapees numbering 194, but all have been traced successfully and, should I say, recovered from wherever they were. The meeting recommended that government must continue to upgrade our hospital facilities, in particular intensive care units in our hospitals, particularly metropolitan cities where more people are being hospitalized. We had an outbreak of diarrhea in Bulawayo City, and we took note of this setback in Bulawayo, where diarrhea outbreak was recorded, leading to several cases. We were, however, satisfied by the interventions being made, which have seen water supplies improving, particularly in Ruveve, the most affected residential area. We were also, should we say, satisfied and happy that there were no linkage between the diarrhea outbreak and COVID-19 infections. On arrest of COVID-19 regulation violators, with regards to face masks, over 1,600 persons have been arrested for violating this regulation. We encourage members of the public to observe the requirement to put on face masks seriously, and the law enforcement agents should intensify the enforcement of this regulation. We were particularly saddened that visits to Mbare seem to indicate a complete disregard of the provision requiring that they should wear face masks, both at the Musika and generally in the suburb. With respect to opening of education centers, schools and universities, the task force has also given the go-ahead for the opening of education centers, that is secondary and primary schools, ahead of the 28th July 2020, following the observation of COVID-19 set guidelines. So there have been guidelines issued to guide those who are going to open education centers, and where schools and institutions satisfy the authorities that they are going to comply, they can open ahead of the 28th July 2020. Universities and other institutions of higher learning have also been given the green light on condition that they have met the required guidelines. The same equally on the tourism and hospitality sectors. We are trying here to balance the need for any livelihoods and keeping the economy running, and also the need for safety and prevention. And where we are satisfied that prevention guidelines have been put in place, I think we should allow economic activities to take place. Overall, the meeting commended the task force on COVID-19 for a splendid job well done thus far. The meeting also noted, as I've already mentioned, that Mbare is one of the potential hotspots because of the violations of COVID-19 regulations obtaining there. The meeting called for unity to succeed in the fight against the spread of COVID-19 in line with the presidential lockdown on the directive. The Commissar on my left presented quite a lengthy report on the state of affairs in the party and in the country. I want to preface my remarks by saying ZANU-PF has two eyes. While all of you, when you sleep, you shut all your eyes, ZANU-PF does not shut one of the eyes. It sleeps with one eye open. So we remain vigilant against the machinations of the enemy, and they have been very intensified in recent weeks. So we noted regrettably the continued weaponization of social media to vilify government, the party, and the face family. Being photographed with you does not mean that when you go out to commit murder, I was an accomplice. I think I need to make that very clear. The president is on many occasions, while receiving gifts on COVID, being photographed by people. Now what they do out there cannot be associated by virtue of being photographed with His Excellency. And I think this goes for all of us. We should never be associated with criminal elements by mere fact that they had cause to be near us and to be photographed. I want to make that clear. The vilification, which has no factual basis, shows the hand of hostile forces and foreign interests who have placed regime change a priority despite our efforts to re-engage. Clearly, it is very clear to us that there are foreign interests fueling and funding the proposed demonstration at the end of the month, and also being very active on the social media to vilify and undermine the government and ZANU-PF. So sadly, we are being misunderstood to think that when we say we want to re-engage, it's not from a position of weakness, as His Excellency has already said. It is because we believe in international solidarity, which was very key to our mounting the armed struggle. We depended very much on international solidarity, and we believe very sincerely and genuinely in international solidarity. So when we engage, it is to build international consensus and solidarity against colonialism, against imperialism, against interference in the internal affairs of other countries, something that we condemn very strongly. Sadly, these attacks are spoiling the good name of the country and its leadership on the global scale. This has to stop and stop forthwith. It is very clear that the aim is a regime change agenda, a priority despite our efforts to re-engage. We have also noted the use of the same social media platforms to plan and organize for violent demonstrations aimed at overthrowing our constitutionally constituted government. Let me say this to Chamisa and those who are calling for demonstrations at the end of July. What happened on the 1st of August 2018 will never happen again in this country. What happened on the 14th to the 16th of January last year, attacking property, attacking persons, causing injury, will never happen again. We send this warning loud and clear, and we say to Chamisa and those who are like-minded, don't be the cowards that you were on the 1st of August in 2018 or on the 14th to the 16th of January last year. You were never to be found. You were in your house. If you do whatever you are threatening to do, come in front and face the music. We have, our cadres are ready to take up and to take on anybody who attacks them. ZANU-PF members have the right to defend themselves and will not sit idly by. As we did on the 14th to the 16th, we could not sit idly by. We have a right to defend our homes, our persons, our property, and we will do just that. So please send out that warning loud and clear to Chamisa. He should not be the coward that he has been. Let him come in front and we'll face him. We have also noted that those doing so must stand warned, and the law will not hesitate to deal with those. Our democracy and rule of law is very clear on how a government is constituted. The meeting advised those planning to sneak themselves into government violently through the back door to desist from such devious agendas because they will have themselves to blame. We had an election in 2018. It gave ZANU-PF a mandate. We have a 2/3 majority in parliament, and we are going to be in charge of this country for the remainder of our term of mandate. And no one has any right to threaten us, to intimidate us. We are not amenable to intimidation from any court. That must be clearly understood. The party also noted that there is the rampant cases of corruption happening in local authorities, especially those controlled by the opposition in Harare and Chitungwiza, where MDCA councillors are parceling out land illegally without any iota of regard to due process. The same notorious city councils have created their own version of a new normal. You know what the new normal is in all urban councils controlled by MDC? the new normal is that sewage should spool out and people live side by side with flowing sewage in all the residential areas. Poor service delivery, no attention given to providing water, no attention given to sewage disposal or to refuse disposal. That is the kind of rule that the opposition knows about. And we say to the people of Harare, all those areas who have voted for the opposition, why do you vote for parties to oppress you? Why do you vote for parties so that they give you poor service delivery? You continue voting for them irrespective of the fact that you have no water. Right now, it's now central government that is to intervene in all local authorities which are controlled by MDC to put balls. Normally, that is the responsibility of local authorities. It's not the responsibility of central government to collect refuse. It's not the responsibility of local government to provide for sewerage pipes. That is the responsibility of local authorities. But what is very sad is to note a people in these local authorities continually voting for the very people who will cause them cholera and typhoid. So we call upon these relevant authorities to take drastic action in dealing with such vices which have seen the re-emergence of illegal settlements fronted by fresh crop of land barons and baronesses connected to the opposition circuit. And they are so fraudulent. When they do it, they pretend that they are coming from the ruling party. It's not true. We have no ZANU-PF members who are engaging in land barons. We have no ZANU-PF cadres who are occupying land illegally. If there are any doing so, we call upon the law enforcement agencies to arrest them without reference to anybody. Please, they should be. The party also resolved to remain vigilant and watching moving forward, knowing full well that the enemy is not sleeping. The enemy is not sleeping. ZANU-PF, let me tell you this, we are also not sleeping. In the next couple of weeks, you should get to know that ZANU-PF is not sleeping. And those who are planning the end of month demonstrations should know ZANU-PF is not sleeping. Thank you for warning us. This time, while we were sleeping with one eye open, we will sleep with both eyes open. The Politburo welcomed the decision to eject Old Mutual from the financial system of this country and the closure of EcoCash agents who had caused runaway inflation through illegal parallel exchange market rates. This will be followed by stabilization of the financial sector and the macroeconomic environment. As you are aware, the auction system is started to sell auction to auction foreign currency, and we believe that over time we will get to an equilibrium where there will be stability of the rate, of the exchange rate, and also there will be stability of prices. That we clearly are sure will happen. We also commented, that is the Politburo meeting, also commented the program for Mvudza. This is a good program that is aiming to achieve productivity by people with minimal resources. People with minimal resources, especially our communal peasant farmers. They don't need to have sophisticated equipment or to have cattle in order to farm through the Mvudza program. So we are very, very happy that this program has been launched and the launch is working very well. Our party structures, the commissariat, the Women's League, the Youth League, and the War Veterans League are participating fully in raising awareness of this program to the people. As a mass party, we must always remain, and we do remain, with the people, notwithstanding the challenges that we are facing. Let me say this, there is no other party that is as people-centered as we are. All the other parties are fabricated, manufactured. We all know their origins. And up to now, you get leaders of the opposition writing to the IMF, to the World Bank, to demand that sanctions continue, to demand that those institutions should not avail credit facilities to their own country. They are not working for the interests of the people of Zimbabwe. They are working for the interests of those people who are funding them. It's only ZANU-PF which works for the people of Zimbabwe. The party also on philanthropic work. We express our gratitude to the philanthropic work being done by Amain Mnangagwa, the First Lady, under her Age of Hope Foundation, which has spearheaded several interventions to address challenges being faced by our people during these COVID-19 pandemic times. We also must commend, and the party commended also, the Murefu and Muduri Foundations for their charity work and philanthropic work, where the organization are providing relief aid to vulnerable groups during these trying times. We also discussed pending by-elections. As you know, there are several by-elections arising from the recall of whatever is happening in MDC. As you know, it's a splitting party. It started as MDC, then they said it MDC Changirai, then it split MDC Changirai, MDC Watchmen, then later on it mutated MDC Changirai, and then Kupe, and then Sikala, and then who else? BT, and Mutambara. Then they come again. When they come again, they start splitting again. That is the phenomenon of this opposition. I trust that this nation will not empower and entrust their lives into the hands of a splitting organization which does not know where it is going. It has no policy except to say, Mnangagwa must go. No other policy. No other policy to say, ZANU-PF must go. What they will do if they were to be given power? No, we will split. That, I think, is the clear message, which when we take power, we split, because their objective is not to govern the people. Their objective is to make money. They are representing the interests of foreigners. So we are taking steps we've noted these by-elections, and we are taking steps to prepare ourselves to contest and win. We are only waiting for ZEC to give us a signal whether they will undertake these by-elections during COVID lockdown period or not. Whichever comes, we are ready. We applauded the Women's League for its sterling work in fighting the spread of COVID-19 through its awareness campaigns. That is the end of my press statement. I will welcome questions. Let me say 5 or 6, up to 5 and 6.
Yeah,
my colleagues here will assist me.
So the floor has been open for questions from you. Thank God today we don't have activists, we have journalists. So the floor is yours to ask questions. Please feel free. Comrade Matema Danda is there. Comrade Tendai Chirao from the Youth League is there. Comrade Lima is there. And of course, himself, the man himself, the spokesperson is there. Feel free to ask your questions. Empty your chest. This is an opportunity when they are still there. Yes, young man.
Malvin Kwaramba, freelance.
Speak aloud.
Malvin Kwaramba, freelance. My question is directed to Comrade Chirao. As we know, the Youth League as the vanguard of the party. So, are there any plans or machinations to counter the 31st demonstrations by the opposition to ouster the President, His Excellency Emmerson Mnangagwa?
No, I'll take that question. We will never tell you what we are going to do. Don't you want it to so that you can count out what we are going to do? No, we don't do that. All I can say is what happened on the 1st of August 2018, what happened on the 14th to the 16th January last year will not happen again. As to what we are going to do, that is our secret.
So, be rest assured, it will not happen again. That's the key. Just know it will not happen again. We are not here to discuss strategy. Any other question to any of the panelists? Yes, speak aloud.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, come closer. Just come.
Yes, I just want a clarification on the provision that you say that for those who meet the conditions can open aid on the 28th of July. Does this apply to all classes or in some classes?
Yes, I believe so. What I think the government is doing, and I can be corrected, what the government is doing is to come up with guidelines sector by sector. For instance, if we are talking about the education sector, if we are going to open a school or a university, the government and the Ministry of Health will come up, the task force, with guidelines on what should be observed and complied with, so that it does not endanger the reopening does not endanger the lives of those students and staff. Let me also say this, which I omitted in my statement. There is concern, of course, of the spike that is taking place in the infections. But more particularly concerned is over the local transmission. Now, all along there were imported cases. Now there are local transmissions. And now with local transmissions, they are more difficult to control, because we then require to know whoever we find locally who says, I never travel. We now need to know who else did he come into contact with, so that we can do contact tracing. So each sector is going to come up with guidelines. And if the institution comes to the task force and says, these were your guidelines, this is what we are going to do to comply with your guidelines, it will be given permission to reopen.
Yes.
Takawira 26 Richard. There's been talks. Did the Politburo by any chance discuss the possibility of reverting to the default lockdown settings given the spike in number of cases?
Well, we didn't discuss. In fact, it was mentioned, and the concern over the spike was quite clear, but we left it to government, to experts, to consider if they need to. That is up to them. On the basis of what is happening, they are free to come up with reviews, whether to tighten or to loosen, or to go into other phases and so forth. That is entirely expert, and we leave that entirely to government.
I think this was the fourth question, probably the last one. Yes, please.
My name is Kodapist from the Sunday Bank. I just want you to shed more light on the strategies that you have as a party to sustain the fight against the economic sabotage. You spoke about ordinary shop, spoke about the black market and mobile money operators. What is the strategy for the party which directs the government to continue to sustain the fight against these vices?
I'm not very clear what your question is saying. I'm not very clear. As you know, all strategies to stabilize the economy are the responsibility of the government. As a party, we call upon the government to stabilize the economic situation. The unstable and ever-increasing prices, we are calling upon the government to stabilize. The continuing exchange rate. Now, we are very clear and we are very convinced that while the economic fundamentals are correct, barring the impact of COVID-19, the economic fundamentals are correct. But there are players, uninvited players, within the sector, within the industry, who are manipulating certain factors in order to destabilize the economy. So the demand we are making on government is that they identify those saboteurs. So far, as you are aware, there is clearly indicated that the EcoCash agents, not the EcoCash, there was some misinformation that the government has banned EcoCash transactions. We have not. EcoCash transactions are still taking place. What has been banned are EcoCash agents who are manipulating the system to their advantage. With some cases which are being reported, someone in Itswarasekwa having in his wallet anything like 60 or 80 million and he has never worked in his life. Those are the people we have to track out, and the responsibility to do that is the government through the law enforcement agents. There is also, of course, the manipulation about from the foreign forces. There is clear manipulation, basically agitating for demonstrations, and the more violent, the more they give the money. Those, again, the Minister of Foreign Affairs will have, at some occasion, we've called upon the Minister of Foreign Affairs to engage those foreign embassies which are embarking on that exercise, internal interference in our internal affairs. So, as to the others which are necessary to stabilize the economy, is access to capital, access to international capital, which the opposition is preventing. We have no control over that. We continue to engage, but we have no control. We cannot tell you by when the sanctions will be lifted. We cannot tell you by when they will be able to allow the World Bank, African Development Bank, IMF to grant credit facilities, which we are entitled to get because we are members of all those international organizations. But right now, countries which impose sanctions prevent us from accessing that capital.
It appears the questions have been exhausted. So I'm sure Comrade Matema Nana will just want to close the conference by a 1 minute comment on the issues that the spokesperson of the party has hinted will not happen.
I think he has given direction, especially on the likely demonstrations that it won't be the old normal. And this should serve as a warning and also as a direction. People must stay in their houses, go for their normal work, and just ignore these calls for demonstrations. Otherwise, like the spokesperson has said, we are quite aware that there are some foreign embassies that are now bent unashamedly on championing regime change. But Zimbabwe did not come on a silver plate. We are ready to defend it with whatever demand. So let them come. We'll be there host.
We have heard it from the leadership, the men themselves. It will not happen. And if ever they do, they are ready to be hosted. They must be ready. Thank you very much for coming to today.